What's up, Fuggers? Today we're going to be looking at some new cards revealed for Hearthstone, but before we get into that, if you want to be a Fugger, subscribe to my channel down below, and while you're down there, drop a like and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all my new content, which I release every week. It's absolutely free and painless to subscribe, and you can always unsubscribe later, so please, every single one of your subscriptions counts. Anyway, let's review some cards.
What's up, Fuggers?
Alright, our first card up here is DJ Manastorm, a 10 mana 8/8 legendary for Mage. With Battle Cry, set the cost of spells in your hand to 0. After you cast one, the others cost 1 more. Now this is a pretty insane effect. And one interesting thing about this is that it does discourage effects that draw a lot of high-cost spells to cheat out because they start getting more expensive. So if you have a hand full of spells, you're not going to really be cheating mana by the end of them. Although I guess that doesn't really matter if you're getting 9 and 10 mana spells. But it does immediately cheat out a spell, which makes me think that if you can get this out earlier in the game, that this is going to be really powerful. At 10 mana, I don't really know how strong this is going to be because you could just play Puzzle Box, for example, for 10 mana. It does get you an 8/8 also, but a lot of the time it's going to die during the effect of Puzzle Box, and that's pretty much the best 10 mana spell you can play with this. You could also play, obviously, Amulet, but I feel like usually Puzzle Box is going to be more useful in a deck like this because you usually need to catch back up on board. Now, I do think this is really good if Big Mage is good, but if Big Mage isn't a good deck, then this is just like a win more card, I feel like. And at 10 mana, it's coming out really late, so I don't think it's helping you, like, get your game plan online at all. Like, this needs something like Pocket Galaxy, in my opinion, to be really good. In Standard, I do think this has a pretty good chance of being good, though, because the pool is much smaller, although there is a severe lack of expensive spells in Standard, because a lot of their good spells are rotating, so that is something to consider. Alright, next up here we have Eye of Shadow. It's a 2 mana 2/3 demon that says your hero has lifesteal for Demon Hunter. So this is a really interesting minion because before Demon Hunter was able to get lifesteal with Aldrachi Warblades, their 3 mana weapon, now you have this minion that can give you lifesteal on any attack or any weapon, so that's going to cause some insane scenarios. Like, I believe if you use the cleave weapon with this guy, that you would get the healing from the cleave as well. So you could heal for 12 HP with the 4 damage cleave weapon, or you could have the cleave weapon already up, and then add some attack to your hero to heal for like 20 plus health. That theoretically could actually make that weapon see play. It hasn't really seen any play since Demon Hunter first released and people experimented with it a little bit, but that seems like a compelling reason to run it, to be honest. Outside of that, this is just a really good card, and it also synergizes really well with another card we're going to look at in a little bit. Alright, next up here we have Going Down Swinging, the legendary spell for Demon Hunter. It says, give your hero +2 attack and immune this turn, then attack each enemy minion. So this is going to synergize really well with that minion we just looked at, and there's also a lot of potential for really good board clears with this. Now this is very limited by its cost. It is 5 mana, so that's going to make it so that a lot of combos with this just aren't possible. But there is some really strong stuff. Unfortunately, what would have been the strongest thing to combo with this is rotating, and that's Fury. But Demon Hunter does still have cards like Dispose of Evidence, so it's not like there's no way to get this up really cheaply. So I do think that this has a potential. Now, one unfortunate thing about Dispose of Evidence is that you can't play it before this if they're the only 2 cards in your hand, so that is a significant drawback for that line. But I'm sure Demon Hunter will be getting more attack-raising spells in this set, so we'll probably have something. And if not, there's probably going to be stuff added to core that should help. Alright, our next card here is Glaivetar, a new 4-mana 4/2 weapon. With Death Rattle, draw 1 card, play Outcast cards while equipped to improve. So this is a really crazy weapon to me. It is 4 mana, which is kind of expensive. It's 4/2, so it's worth the 4 mana. But it does mean that it comes out a little bit later, so it's hard to set up. But one of my favorite decks that I've made in the past month was Outcast Demon Hunter. Now, it's not performing as well as it was before the last few patches, but it's still a pretty solid deck, and this seems like a pretty good addition to it. Ever since Vengeful Walloper was buffed, the deck has been performing a lot better than I think people realize, but the deck hasn't seen as much experimentation as a lot of other decks in the meta. I do believe there's a version of the list that's really strong that people haven't found yet, and I think that cards like this might help push it to the front of people's minds, and maybe we'll see it come to the front of the meta. Alright, our next card here is Instrument Smasher. It's a 4-mana 3/6 for Demon Hunter. This is whenever your weapon is destroyed, equip a random Demon Hunter weapon. Now, importantly, this is limited to Demon Hunter weapons, so that's a pretty reliably small pool, so you can predict pretty well what this is going to give you on average. Now, I haven't actually gone through and looked at what it will give you on average, so I can't tell you, but I can say with certainty that it will be a known factor. So, depending on how good the average Demon Hunter weapon is, this may be very good or very mediocre. I do think this has a good chance of seeing play, though, because you just use it to replace a breaking weapon, and that's usually going to be pretty good value when it's some sort of aggro Demon Hunter, so it's probably going to make the list in some sort of deck. On top of that, there's also the chance that the average Demon Hunter weapon is actually broken, and you really want to play this, because if I'm not mistaken, a lot of their weapons right now are 4/2s, so you could roll a 4/2 pretty reliably, which is pretty valuable if you're breaking like a 1-mana weapon into this. Alright, next up here we have Blackrock, the legendary spell for Warrior. It's a 5-mana fire spell. This says give all minions in your deck attack and health equal to their cost. So, a lot of people were confused about how this works and thought it set their attack and health to their cost. That's not what this is doing. It's adding that to their attack and health. So everything in your deck is going to get more powerful, even if it's small. So this has the potential to see play in some sort of tempo warrior deck as just a way to buff all of your minions. Your 1-drops will get +1/+1, which is not insignificant, and anything larger than that is going to get pretty big. Now, it is 5 mana, so that's pretty prohibitive, but it is a fire spell, which means it works with Thorribalor. Thorribalor hasn't really seen much play in any sort of good deck, but there's a chance after rotation that there's enough fire spells in Warrior to actually make it good. And there is that 1-drop that whips the board whenever you play a fire spell, so there might be a deck there. There's also the angle of Big Warrior, but historically that has not worked very well, so I do not have much hope for that. Although, I did talk about before that there is an angle for the Jailer with some of these new cards, and this card would fit into that deck, so it is a possibility. Alright, well that's it for the detailed reviews. Now on to star ratings. DJ Manastorm is a 2-star card in Standard and a 1-star card in Wild. Eye of Shadow is a 4-star card in Standard and a 3-star card in Wild. Going Down Swinging is a 5-star card in Standard and a 3-star card in Wild. Glaivetar is a 4-star card in both Standard and Wild. Instrument Smasher is a 3-star card in Standard and a 2-star card in Wild. And Blackrock is a 3-star card in Standard and a 1-star card in Wild. Well, there you go, guys. That wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, remember to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all my new content, which I release every week. That's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Peace.